then on, people started using ChatGPT for various kinds of queries, and here we have a model which is trained on everything that is available in the internet, right? The power of that, and you can ask any questions. You can ask about which college, for example, if you want to research about any college or anything, it can take all the data and give it to you. So all the enterprises, coming to the enterprise context, they also started using it, and AI become one of the strategic imperative for every industry vertical, across the world, right? And then, if I talk about in the last 1 year, there's a huge evolution. In fact, agentic AI has come up in a big way. So generative AI was able to extract information from various enterprise documents and information systems, but it was not able to take action. So the ROI was not coming up. But with agentic AI, now not only it can extract information from various systems, it can also take action and complete the transaction. So with that, actually, it can mimic human. So the power of AI went up significantly on one side. On the other side, there is a lot of research happening on the compute. So AI, as you know, runs on GPUs and TPUs, and the cost of GPU and TPU used to be very high. So running AI, the cost of running AI used to be high. But in the last 2 years, the cost of AI or cost of compute of running AI has come down by 100x. Right? So your token cost is coming down significantly. Now it is in cents. The architecture is improving. And with that, actually AI is being democratized and it is available to everybody. Right? What does that mean? Now let's come back to how it is impacting the industry, impacting the workplace and workforce. Right? So now that the AI is available to everybody, as a student, now my son is studying in IIT Madras. And as a student, now people don't look at books, right? It's boring going through the books. Now you can use your model to understand, to do any research that you want to do. You can get far better options, right? And people are using a Claude or OpenAI or any of these things to do research, to build their applications. You don't have to do it in the old way. Coming to different personas, if I take, right, is a developer, right? When I did my engineering, as a developer 30 years back, we used to learn different programming languages to do the coding. Now, do I need to do that? Probably not, right? English has become the new coding language, so probably we will not need a lot of coders to do it. But has the work come down? No. Actually, since anything that is if the cost of running that service comes down, then the consumption goes up, right? If the consumption goes up, then you will have more and more jobs for it. So application, 30 years back there were limited set of applications for any enterprise or for user. Today, every iPhone, every phone that you are carrying, underneath there is application. Everybody, the cost of running the application has come down, so everybody is using. The token cost has come down now. Many of you in this room, I am using, any of the LLM you must be using it is there in your phone, right? Why you are doing that? Because the cost of running that has come down and almost it is coming to you for free. So if all these things are available, then people will consume more and more. So that developer, per se, writing the code is not required, but the demand for software development has not come down, right? It is increasing. We have more and more. In fact, some statistics says that the AI role has gone up by 3x, right? The increase in demand in AI role has gone up by 3x, and it will only go up from here, right? Things are everything is falling in place to create a big boom. Now, I will also talk about what is the implication of that, okay, to the society and to the industry. Think of it healthcare, right? Healthcare is very close to my heart. I work for some of the leading healthcare companies for a long time. And for a country like India, right, the affordability of people for healthcare is very difficult, right? Not everybody can afford. And in villages, where 70% of our people stay, going to a doctor, doing your X-rays, doing all the tests and getting that, it is expensive. with AI, what we can do now, teleconsultation has come up in a big way, right? Now everybody or many people are using teleconsultation, and which is available to everybody. You can be in a remote village, as long as you have a phone, you can do teleconsultation, right? So, and the doctors, they don't have to come to the city, even in platform, and there are platforms available where doctors can provide the consultation. Patients across in the remote village can take that. It is all economy, right? It is generating more jobs. So there are more doctors who are getting employed. The people are getting more healthcare service, right? And it is generating more jobs. There are more software developers who will create that platform, which will be available to all. Now you talk about education sector, right? In India, we spend maximum, as a parent, we spend maximum money on education, right, for our child education. Right? It's extremely important for us. India has come to this stage because of our knowledge economy, right? And people, everybody is a society, we want to go to the best school, we want to learn from the best. Again with AI, today we have created agents, okay, which are available in different way in India, where people can learn the way they want to learn. You can learn in a Socrates way of learning. You don't have to go through the books in a boring way. You can ask it in a question-answer model. You can the AI can teach you in a storytelling mode. You can learn in very different ways. And people who cannot afford to come to big institutes, they can also learn. So AI is creating a level playing field for everybody. So anybody who wants to learn can learn. They don't have to necessarily come through a university. Even universities are changing. They are also providing courses which are not only the in-person or the classroom kind of thing. You can also give a very different digital experience and combine both to create a unique experience. Likewise, right, if we talk about agriculture is a big part of India, and AI can play a big role, right? It can tell you now, depending on the soil that we have, depending on the weather forecast, which is the best crop that you can grow, and for your context, right, at that time of the year. Not only that, and today, in fact, I was reading somewhere there are 2 million jobs getting created. Now put sensor on the soil across India, because we have one of the world's largest or second largest cultivating land, right? If you see where you can do that. So if we can optimize that, and if we can understand, and there are sensors that is put in the soil, it can tell you the soil quality, it can tell you the weather forecast for that region, and it can optimize what we can grow and how our farmers can get benefited. So, and not only that, after the farm produce, you have to take it to the end consumer, and there are a lot of middlemen, because of which the farmers are not getting what they want, or what they deserve. And with AI, you can build a platform, and the farmers can directly sell it to the end consumer. So if you want to order, you can get the best quality chocolates or best quality coffee, which is produced in Kerala. You can order it here, and from the farmer you can get it here. All this is possible because today we have platforms, and AI can help both the consumer as well as the farmer to use it. You can take any sector, right? Retail, in fact, today after COVID, there's a huge benefit in the sense people not only go for physical shopping, they also go for a lot of digital shopping, right? Many of you, I'm sure. How many of you are using Amazon or Flipkart or our shopping experience has changed, right? Many of you in this, almost 90% of you are going through a digital experience for shopping. In fact, we have built applications for leading retailers where you can ask them, I'm going for this event, and for this event, what is the best get-up that I can go with? If I'm going for a Hindu wedding in Pune, then it will recommend you based on the weather what is best suited for you. If I'm going for a peace festival in Miami, then it will suggest what is the best dress code that I can go with. So this is creating a very different revenue channel for these companies, right? and it is good for consumer. We want to consume in different way, and it is generating more business, it is generating more employment. So coming back to why I am giving all these examples, AI, in my opinion, is changing some of the job profiles, some personas, the way we are doing probably will change. But net, it is it is generating more jobs, right? Of course, what does that mean? That means our current workforce, they need to be retrained. Because if they were a Java developer, they will need to train them how to use Cloud Code for generating Java, right? And not to do it in the old ways of working, right? Or if it is a professor or a doctor, now we need to teach them how to use a AI model so that they can be more efficient and can deliver better, right? So everybody has to learn. In Infosys, we have taken in fact, Ranjan Nilekani, our chairman, has given a guidance that we want to make Infosys AI first, and we are in that journey. And we have taken a path where the entire Infosys should be trained on AI. Right? Everybody should be AI aware. That means they need to know what is the art of possible with AI. Whether you are in HR, whether you are in the finance team, whether you are in marketing or sales, doesn't matter. But you need to understand what can be done with AI. As a developer, of course, you need to use AI to generate code, and for that matter, every persona. How much time I have? 2 minutes. So. If you see, the technology has evolved, the cost of running AI is coming down, so it is more affordable. So the demand is growing up significantly. The work is changing. In fact, all the work that was there before AI, now we need to reimagine how every role, every persona will change with AI, right? Whether it's retail, whether it's banking. In fact, banking I want to is the biggest consumer of AI. Now, how many of us are going to the bank? I mean, 30 years back, it was if you have to create a fixed deposit also, you have to go to the bank and stand there for whatever, 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours to create that. Now, everything is digital, right? We have an app in our smartphone, and you can do anything that you want to do in banking. We rarely go to the bank, right? But that is creating. Did that reduce the employment in banking? No. Actually, the banking sector has employed more number of people. Why? Because we needed a lot of new people to create those apps. We needed a lot of people who can focus on customer relationship, right? Now, many of you will have a relationship manager who will talk to you, who will help you. They are also using AI so that to make the loan more affordable, right? And for underwriting, AI is being used in a significant way. So, in fact, this is very interesting. Only if you have good record, right? How much of money you can afford. They were giving loans based on your salary slip. People who are not in, let's say, conventional job, right? If your salary slip is not showing a big number, and you are doing a business, let's say Pune, right? Somewhere. The Bada Pav business, not that he is any poor, right? They also sell, millions of Bada Pav, okay? And they make good profit margin, but he doesn't have a salary slip. Today, with the digital footprint, you can see what is his sales volume, right? Because everybody is paying through GPay. Today, through a UPI or a credit card, right? Now, how many of us are actually paying in cash? So there is a good digital footprint. If there is a good digital footprint, then based on that, you can give a loan. And so this also increases affordability, right? So it is helping the society. It is creating more jobs. But what is important is we need to also reskill ourselves. I will pause here and I will give it to my colleagues to take it forward. Thank you.
Thanks, Ashok, for giving all those really nice and relatable examples from India. So, what I hope to do now is just take you, sort of back up a level and try to, show you an outline about how we are thinking about approaching AI for development as part of the World Development Report for 2026. I have to say that just like AI, the World Development Report is also a work in progress. So please forgive any hallucinations that you see along the way in this presentation. I just want to repeat, I think the aim of this session is exactly the same as the aim of this report, which is to provide a developing country perspective on a topic for which we see and hear very little in the context of developing countries, but largely in the context of the US, of other high-income countries, and of China. So if there was a single aim for this report, that's what it is. I think many questions have come up in the last couple of days around the fact that what is AI? How do we define it? And for the purposes of this report, we want to say that we are cognizant of the fact that AI is not a monolith. There are different types of AI, and we identified three very broad groups, which in some way mirror the way the technology itself has evolved over time. So the first one is predictive AI, which all of you might be familiar with in the context of machine learning models that are used to analyze historical and real-time data to make all kinds of prediction and optimization decisions. So whether it's about food prices, food shortages, weather patterns, etc., etc. What we are most familiar with today is what is typically referred to as generative AI, which builds upon the powers of prediction to also bring into play content creation. And all the AI chatbots that Ashok described in his talk, everything that we use every day falls under this bucket. And finally, we are moving now towards what people describe as agentic AI, which builds upon the powers of prediction and content creation to now move to a world where AI can execute a series of tasks to a large degree autonomously. If you think about self-driving cars, or if you think about software programming agents that can complete task A to task X, these are what AI agents are going to look like increasingly in the future. So these are the sort of broad categories of AI that we will look to analyze in this report. Now, just in the context setup, when you're in the US, all the talk is about job loss and how AI is likely to bring about a mass disruption in labor markets. But if you look at the composition of work, occupation, and sectors in developing economies today, this risk is much lower. So what you see on the right-hand side is that a much lower share of jobs is exposed to automation by AI in developing countries compared to advanced economies. You can see that nice positively sloped line with levels of per capita income. So just to say that the immediate risk of mass disruption is much lower in developing countries today. At the same time, people talk much less about other aspects of AI and its potential to accelerate progress towards addressing many long-standing development challenges. Think about sluggish productivity growth, think about human capital which accumulates slowly, or think about public services which are often delivered inefficiently. I'll just give you one example. Can you think of a world where AI can do for agriculture extension services, say in 10 years, what traditional agricultural extension services would have taken maybe 30 or 40 years to do? So that's the kind of potential that AI has to accelerate progress in these different fields. What then are the fundamental features of AI that might make us optimistic about the future? The first one we identify is the fact that AI can raise the capabilities of people and lower the barriers to entry for people to do different kinds of cognitive tasks. So what you see here is on the top sort of right hand side of the chart is tasks that are intensive in non-routine analytical cognitive work. And it's most of these tasks that are much more exposed to AI use. And those are the red colored bubbles that you see in this chart. And this is just to say that because the capabilities to do these kinds of tasks are on average lower in developing economies, there is a hope for some leveling up. And the fact that people with lower skills will be able to do these more skill-intensive tasks. The second reason to be optimistic is that it's not only what the technology can do in principle, but actually how we might expect the technology to diffuse in practice. So what you see on the left-hand side is the fact that the use of generative AI tools and chatbots has diffused much faster from rich to poor countries compared to the internet or to electricity. So if you just see the India numbers on the top, you'll see that generative AI chatbot traffic in India is about 50% of what it is in the US, whereas search engine internet traffic is only about a third of what it is in the US. And this pattern is pretty similar across many middle-income countries. However, we recognize the fact that yes, AI adoption can happen more quickly than previous technologies, but it is conditional on having some basic infrastructure in place. Just think of smartphones, for example, which would be the crucial sort of input for this technology to diffuse fast. And what we see here is that the share of people who own smartphones is not universal across the world. And while countries like India, the penetration rates are relatively high, but in many lower income countries, smartphone access is way, way away from being universal. And finally, the third reason to be optimistic is that it's not only about what the technology can do in principle, it's not only about how we expect the technology to get adopted more fast, but it's also that there is a business opportunity for developing countries to add value through AI adaptation or the customization of AI solutions to the local context. So what we know is that the frontier AI models are getting cheaper to access. People don't need to have fancy software coding skills to actually engage with this AI software. And there are growing opportunities to use local sources of data to inform AI solutions because of their voice and video feature. We know, for example, that in developing countries, text-based data is much less available, but the use of voice and video feature that AI can exploit actually really enhances this opportunity to also add value within the AI value chain. Second, after sort of establishing why we expect AI to be salient for development in these ways, the second part of the report will then go on to assess the evidence around how AI is impacting economic, social, and political outcomes. The economic pillar will talk about and think about the impact of AI on growth and jobs. The social pillar around the impacts of AI on government services, whether it's education, health, or other forms of public administration. And finally, a political or political economy pillar, which will look at both the impacts of AI on political systems within countries, but also on the geopolitics of AI and whether AI is likely to concentrate in the hands of a few people in a few places. There will be opportunities and risks that AI will bring across these economic, social, and political pillars. And I'll just give you one example. Say when we think about government services, a clear opportunity is that AI algorithms can, for example, guide the allocation of scarce resources, which we know is a serious problem in developing countries where fiscal space is limited. But at the same time, AI solutions can actually exacerbate different kinds of social biases that are already embedded in the data that is used to train AI models. And we then want to make the point that the type of AI solution or the part of the AI value chain that you're in might matter differentially for economic and social and political pillars of development. So what do I mean by this? So when we think about growth, productivity, and jobs on the economic pillar, most of the action is really going to be about getting the private sector, firms, small businesses to adopt AI solutions. So this is going to be the biggest factor in trying to speed up and scale up the adoption of AI that can then have productivity benefits. Of course, adaptation of AI solutions will also be important under the economic pillar, and there will be a small set of startups, entrepreneurs, SMEs who will be building AI applications to the local context in each country. On the social side, it will be a combination of the adopt and the adapt. Because if you think of the nature of government services, if you think about education, about health, about justice delivery, about public administration, these kinds of services are very closely and intimately tied to the local context of a country or place. And therefore, for the social pillar, the adoption and adaptation of AI solutions will go hand in hand. And finally, for the political pillar, it will not only be about AI adoption and AI adaptation, but you could also think about an element of AI advancement. So, if you're thinking about the geopolitics of AI, and if countries and governments are worried about the concentration of AI in the hands of a few companies in a few countries, this could lead to risks of dependence, risks to sovereignty, and for these political economy reasons, there could be a case for some countries to begin to establish the building blocks of AI advancement. How then do we finally move from the motivation, the analysis, to the policy? Is really to think of three distinct roles for governments to promote economic, social, and political development through AI. On the economic side, the primary role of governments would be as enablers of AI for the private sector. So here you think about infrastructure, competition, skills, innovation ecosystems, etc. On the social pillar, it will really be about how governments can best prepare themselves as users of AI, because the government procurement of AI solutions is going to be a big factor in how the AI economy develops in the country. And finally, for the political or political economy side, it will be the role of governments as regulators of AI. And we acknowledge the fact that these three roles of government are distinct but not necessarily mutually exclusive. So if, for example, governments over-regulate AI, they might be underperforming in their role as enablers of AI. And these are the kind of trade-offs that we want to think about more carefully. So finally, just to close, this is what the report is going to look like. There's going to be first an attempt to establish the facts around AI and how and why the technology is salient for development. Here we will focus on AI raising people's capabilities, AI being tightly linked to the local context, and the fact that value in the AI chain is likely to be contested. The second part of the report will take these facts and see how these facts relate to the impact of AI on economic, social, and political development. And finally, the third part of the report on policy will then think about the role of governments as enablers, users, and regulators of AI to empower businesses, to equip governments better, and to ensure trust in AI for society as a whole. I'd just like to end by saying that this WBR actually flips the traditional process and concept of previous world development reports. What we've seen probably for the last 20, 30, 40 years is a world development report being written on a topic for which there is a literature of a decade, 2 decades, or even longer. We don't have the luxury of that sort of literature and evidence being available for this topic. So what we're trying to do is to use this world development report as a starting point, develop simultaneously many regional companion reports. Francisca will present results from a report that has actually come much before the WDR, and we are actually learning a lot from what they've done. But the plan would really be to have a give and take between this global report and much more regional focused reports that will zoom in on issues related to AI that are salient for any given group of countries or an individual country. And then also to establish a research agenda at the World Bank on the topic of AI going forward for the next 3 to 5 years. So we're really hoping that this report will be a launching pad for a serious analytical work program that is going to go into detailed assessments and evaluations of different types of AI solutions that are being used in different developing countries around the world. And I'll stop with that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So within this framework that Gaurav has just given you, I'll show you a bit how India compares to other emerging markets. And I do this in a very partial equilibrium way in most of it, whereas Ashok has already given us the general equilibrium, the big picture, which tends to be much more positive than the partial equilibrium that I will give you now. So I keep reminding you of going back to Ashok's remarks when interpreting this with us. So first, how exposed are South Asian jobs to AI? That's kind of this forward-looking analysis, how bad can it get, or how good can it get? But then I will also take you through data sets and show you what's already happening. Most of it is actually already water under the bridge. It's happening already as we speak. So just to give you a sense of the sweep of AI through the economy, through labor markets. So here you see the global corporate investment. This is global. Then you see for South Asia, here in the middle, you see the ChatGPT usage per capita. It's already very high. And then the bridge to the labor market. We have this data set of millions of job postings, online job postings. Now bear in mind these are online job postings, so there is a certain bias inbuilt into those online job postings. It's the type of jobs that will ever be posted online, is obviously not the subsistence farmer. But you can see how already the share of the AI-related job listings in this online job posting, online light class database has tripled. And that's just between just within a couple of years, less than a couple, actually, a year and a half. So AI is really sweeping not just to the economy, not just to our smartphones, it's also sweeping through labor markets. Here, a bit more India-specific detail. So here you see on the chart to the left the various types of AI, and really the bottom line there is all types of AI skills are demanded increasingly in these job listings. You see that the demand in the job listings up, especially in Bangalore, Hyderabad, and Pune. So this place seems to be one of the places where there's a lot of demand for AI skills. And the AI skills in this jobs database comes with a hefty wage premium. So here in the chart on the right, this is the most analytical of these charts in this database, we run the usual kind of Minsa-style regression, where we have the wage, and then we regress the wage on worker characteristics, or the characteristics of the ideal worker for that job, because every job posting comes with the ideal worker description. And one of the items is AI skills. You can see that AI skills already have a 30% wage premium. That's as of today. So by the time governments have gotten around to creating courses, I think employees have already figured it out. You guys are already using it much faster than any government or any university can start giving you the courses. With a 30% wage premium, that's going to be picked up very quickly. So then what might that do to jobs in the future? This is a very standard database, actually the exercise, that actually Gaurav already showed you in a different version of both of these charts. So here is the India-specific or South Asia-specific variant of it. Bear in mind that this is a data set that is predominantly Indian. So when I say South Asia here, we are using the labor force surveys for our 6 South Asian countries, 80% of which is India. So South Asia you can read approximately as India. So what do we do here? We do what has been done for the US first, and then what has been increasingly done for more countries. We are the first to do it for South Asia. We use a classification of jobs into AI exposed and not exposed. So it's a very standard classification. You see that here in the chart on the left. This is a variant of what Gaurav showed you already. So the AI exposure index is here at the horizontal axis. And you can see, for example, that firefighters and subsistence farmers are not very exposed. It's mostly manual labor, not very exposed. App developers, lawyers, very exposed. A large number of the tasks that they perform in their daily activities is the kind of stuff that AI can do very nicely. Yeah, so they're very exposed on the right-hand side and not exposed on the left-hand side. But that exposed tells you not much, actually. It just tells you whether you can use a computer with it or not, right? The big question is in what way exposed. So that's another paper that is now increasingly being applied. There's a group of researchers who has gone through all the tasks in all these occupations for the US and labeled exposed in a replacing kind of way or exposed in an augmenting type of way. So that's the vertical axis here. So firefighters, for example, they might not be very exposed, but the bit that they are exposed in could really benefit from AI. If they know where the traffic is heaviest, where the fire is most likely to appear, where people are celebrating and there might be a fire that breaks out, firefighters could benefit a lot from whatever little exposure they have, could be productivity enhancing. AI could be productivity enhancing. Not really for subsistence farmers, despite the agribusiness examples that we got. Maybe that's one reason to take the classification with a grain of salt. Lawyers, they could really benefit from AI if someone who saw all these old case studies, all these old cases, former legal cases. And an individual lawyer could do the work of an individual lawyer's team. So very productivity enhancing. Call centers, more replacing. And I'm sure many of you have tried to, or at least I know many people who try to call a call center and no one answers. It's a chatbot who just doesn't get it. So that's the productivity replacing. So if we apply these very standard classifications based on US data, we apply them to our labor force surveys. So labor force surveys, the latest available data for our 6 South Asian countries. And we just count the number of jobs in those labor force surveys. And we label them AI exposed, not exposed, exposed in a replacing way, and exposed in an augmenting way. So this is a very similar exercise to the bar chart that Gaurav showed you for all high-income countries and emerging markets. Here for South Asia, 22% of jobs are exposed to AI in some way or other, good or bad, replacing or augmenting. Turns out of these, the overwhelming majority is exposed in a good way, in a productivity-enhancing way. They will benefit. More productive jobs are better jobs, higher-paying jobs. But there is a 7% here, the red ones, that are exposed in a replacing kind of way. Unfortunately, those are the higher-paying jobs. So you see that the share of jobs in total of these AI-exposed jobs is 21%, but the share of the wage bill is 42%. So AI is now affecting the higher paying jobs. Whereas the robots, remember 2 decades ago, the robots were affecting the lower paying jobs, this time AI is kind of affecting the higher paying jobs. And that's what we get at here. We take the jobs in our labor force surveys. We collapse remember that scatter plot we had here on the left, we collapse it into a single index of exposure in a replacing kind of way. So the higher you go up on the vertical axis, the more replacing kind of exposure the job has to AI. And then we just map these jobs that are held in South Asia by the years of education of the people who hold them in that labor force survey. And you can see that around 18 years of education, so around the BA, not quite a BA, but around 18 years of education, that's where the replacing kind of exposure of AI is the highest. So the people who are at biggest risk of having the old jobs being replaced those are the ones that are just around the BA. It also turns out that those are the ones that are just around entry level, 25 years of age. That's what you see here in the chart on the right. So basically, it's the kind of mid-skilled entry-level workers where the jobs are changing the most. Now, the way this is labeled usually is replaced, but I want to remind you of what Ashok said. Yes, these particular jobs that have been labeled in the literature, yes, those are going away. But at the same time, there's a profound shift that's happening. These workers are finding jobs, they're just finding it elsewhere, not in these old jobs that used to be there. I wish I could show you data, but I don't have the data for this shift. We are working on it. So that is what we would kind of conceptually expect based on the existing labor force surveys from 2 years ago and the classification from 2 years ago. But it's already happening. And that's what I want to show you here. So forget our labor force surveys, now move to our hiring platform, the Lightcast data. These are job postings all the way until October last year. This is the stuff that's already happening. Water under bridges, behind us already, not forward looking, we're afraid of it. It's happening as we speak. What did we do here? So we took all these job postings and simply compared how they behaved in a triple differential, to be technical here. So what we do is we compare data from before the introduction of ChatGPT 3, so that's November 22, the magic date that everyone refers to when they talk about AI. Every event study you see on AI, it's anchored on November 2022. So we do the same. We compare before and after. Then we compare those who are exposed by this previous classification and those who are not exposed. That's the second difference. And then we compare among those exposed, those are exposed in a replacing way and those that are exposed in an augmenting way. This result here shows you what happened to the number of job postings of the most replacing kind of jobs on that hiring platform since ChatGPT. So basically, when you see it statistically significantly below the zero line, the jobs, that platform is having now somewhere around 10-20% fewer jobs of the most exposed, most replacing kind of jobs through AI. So that's your negative. Bear in mind that is a number that minus 10%, minus 20% is relative to the average. The job platform is already growing by 30% a year. Not 30% a year, 30% over this horizon. So what this means is that the jobs that are exposed in a replacing kind of way to AI have fallen behind the other jobs by about 10-20%. Another way of putting that is to look at the chart in the center. So same data, same jobs, same classification into exposed or not exposed, substituting, augmenting. The Qs here at the bottom are the quartiles. Q1 is the quarter of jobs that is the most exposed and most replaceable. So these are your call centers. Q1 is your call centers. Q4 are the most exposed but most augmenting kinds of jobs. That's your lawyers. Yeah, so Q1 is going to call centers, Q4 is lawyers. The bars show you the change in these job postings since the introduction of ChatGPT relative to the average. Relative to the average. You can see that the most substitutable workers job postings in Q1 and Q2 have fallen 10-20% below the average. These jobs are disappearing as we speak. What used to be called, what used to be there and used to be considered, labeled as highly replaceable by AI, those jobs are disappearing now. And, thank you, we see the same pattern that we saw before. The ones, it's already, these high school students, HS students, are the ones whose jobs are disappearing, and the ones with 0 to 5 years experience. So it's the entry level, kind of upper mid-skilled educated. Those jobs are already disappearing. So at this point, what we were fearing in question 1 is materializing in question 2 already, long before policymakers have started acting on this. And the industry, just to end on this, because I want to end on a positive note that ties us back to what Ashok said. The industry that is perhaps most affected by the adoption of AI is BPO. So all we're doing there is showing you data for the BPO industry from these job postings, yeah? Because we know which company is posting jobs on this platform, the Lightcast platform. you see that even before ChatGPT, the introduction of ChatGPT, the pre-GPT era, it's right what Ashok was saying, there's already a big demand for AI skills, 3 times as much as outside the BPO industry. And that demand has doubled just in these couple of years after the introduction of ChatGPT. But the work was already starting before and was heavily concentrated in the BPO industry. And again, we see also here that these jobs by that old classification, by that US classification that were considered very replaceable and very exposed, those have fallen behind the other jobs, growth in other jobs, by 30-40% in the BPO industry too. Wages less so, but the number of jobs has fallen. Meanwhile, if you want to look for productivity gains, where I'm not aware of any good study yet that can show it in a micro level in a causal way, I want to show you here a non-causal, just sort of a speculative way. That industry is having huge productivity gains. To give you a sense, look at the chart on the right. It shows you computer services. So half India's trade to GDP, just to give you an order of magnitude, India's trade to GDP ratio is about 20%. Half of that of GDP. Half of that is services. Exceptionally high. This is India's competitiveness in that sector. Half of that again is this computer services. And they have taken off since the introduction of ChatGPT by about 30%, whereas overall services have grown by 10%. So there are obviously already productivity gains happening. So clearly that at least since the introduction of AI, it may have been other factors that were causing it, but at least by coincidence or perhaps by causality, since the introduction of ChatGPT, the industry has had huge benefits, huge gains, and this is India's most competitive industry. At least export competitive. I won't go into this, just to close up, I'll repeat. So we can see AI sweeping through labor markets. It's already increasing labor demand. For those of you who are looking in the job market, remember this, 30% wage premium. But you've probably already acquired these AI skills. A smaller share of South Asian workers are exposed to AI in the first place because there's so many agricultural workers. 40% of the labor force in South Asia is agricultural, so obviously not much exporter. But among those who are in those jobs, who are at risk of replacement, there is already a clear impact in the labor market. Not just marginal, it's in the double-digit percentage points that job postings have fallen behind the average increase in job postings. And with that, thank you very much. Much more is available now.
Thank you, Francisca. I'll just sort of kick off a discussion with a couple of questions to both Francisca